Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. An update on my Zap Scooter project. So, this thing has come a long ways over probably about the last month and a half or so. First thing is, there is the back wheel, and that tire on there has got like 75, maybe 100 miles on it. So it's a Kenda, whatever it is, K413. And the front had one of those on it too, which I had just bought new not so very long ago. Anyway, yeah. You can probably see it on the camera. So you see that shiny patch down the center of the tire? That's wear. Yeah, you can see it pretty good right there. Anyway, yeah, this tire was wearing pretty quick. You know, it's only got, whatever, like I said, 7,500 miles on it at most. And basically it's because that little patch of rubber there was having to hold the 40 kilowatts of this motor, which is about 50 horse, right? So yeah, these little 10-inch tires weren't exactly made for that. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyway, since the back end was getting reworked, so here we go. I now have a 12-inch cast aluminum rim on here, which I machined to fit the bolt pattern on the motor. So yeah, that's all in there, and now I've got a 12-inch tire. And by the way, these hub motors, almost all of the scooters out there, with the exception of the Zaps that ever use these motors, they all had a 12-inch tire and a 12-inch rim, not a 10-inch like the Zap scooters did. So anyway, yeah, switching over to a 12 gets me back into the proper gearing that these hub motors were expecting from the manufacturer. So yeah, mine's got the proper size wheel on it now, and of course, you know, I've got a much bigger patch of rubber on the back. Yeah, that's a lot better. That's what, probably another inch wider. And by the way, this was a mistake. I had bought two of those because I didn't know that there was a larger D604. I think that's what it is. Yeah, D604 tire that was wider. In 12-inch. So anyway, yeah, this was supposed to go on the back, because you can see it's a little bit wider than this one is. But when I was putting the back wheel together and mounting a tire on it, I just grabbed the wrong tire and didn't think anything of it until after it was all mounted on the scooter, you know, full of air, all that stuff. And then I noticed, like, oh shit, put the wrong tire on there. And, well, it's a pain in the ass, so I'm going to wait till that one wears out, and then I'll put this one on the back. But, you know, that'll be a little while. But, yeah, that was supposed to go on there. As you can see, it's a little bit wider, so that would have been kind of cool. You know, giving me a little bit more grip, probably a little bit better wear out of the back tire, things like that. But, oh well, oops, mistakes. They happen. So the other thing I want to show you is you can see that this 12-inch versus this 10-inch tire, it's significantly larger. And that's going to probably take a little bit of motor torque away. You know, in other words, acceleration might be a little bit less. But hey, I get 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds already, so I'm not too worried about that. But it's also going to mean that I'm going to get a little bit better top speed out of it, because these hub motors were designed around 12-inch tires, not around 10-inch tires. And this is exactly the same size that was on the scooter to begin with. And this is the size that's on most of the scooters that run these hub motors. So, yeah, I'm going to be running it at the proper size tire from now on. The back end looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. One of the things that changed, because there used to be a plastic you know, fender over the back of the tire, and it's too narrow, because it was really meant for the skinnier, you know, whatever they are, 3.5-inch tires. And now I've got, you know, like a 4.5-inch or whatever tire here. And then the real back tire is going to use is even wider yet. So yeah, that fender was too narrow. Totally rubbed on the tire all the way around. So I've got to make another fender for it, which is easy enough. I've got those. They're sitting over there waiting for me to fabricate something for over the back wheel to capture tire spray and all that nonsense. But yeah, that's pretty much all done. Totally rideable as long as the weather's dry, right? Anyway, that's pretty much the back end. Up here, this is a new battery pack that I've just built. I mean, this thing is a week old today because it was getting spot welded last Saturday. And here it is Saturday again, and it's in place and all strapped down. So, yeah, it's literally a week old. But this is all made of 21700 cells. They're rated for 4800 milliamp hours, which really means like more like 4300 milliamp hours in real world use. So in 20S10P, that's probably 42, 43 amp hours. That'll see how this battery pack. But yeah, that's all in place, all strapped down. It's not going anywhere. I've used some cardboard shims to kind of pad around the thing in the frame. And then up here in the corner, you can see it. There's underneath the tape, there's a piece of aluminum right there to basically guard the corner of the battery pack, because it does sit against the metal right here. And it does it on both sides. It's not a tight fit, but it's touching. And then, of course, there's all kinds of padding up underneath there, too. So anyway, that should pretty well protect those corners. And that battery pack is, of course, jammed into the back side of the underseat compartment. So the only thing it can do is basically stay put. It can't go anywhere. I can't really show this because this is all bolted in place so that back battery pack is in there. Anyway, here's my batteries, or my battery wires coming out from there, and that's all A-dog wires coming out of there. So anyway, up underneath here, right there, is my terminal block, and so there are 3 sets of A-dog wires going into that thing, one from each one of the 3 battery packs. So down in here is the LiPos, same thing as before. That was 10 amp hour LiPo packs in 20S4P. And then down here, this is a lithium ion pack, which I'll talk about in a second. That's also 20S, but 12P. Anyway, yeah, my terminal block is all right there. And so 3 sets of A-dog wires go into it, and then a set of 6-dog wires come out to the 2 motor controllers. And then right here are 2 14-dog wires that come out, and they go into the 12-volt electrical system. And then up in here, so these are 2 OptiFuse 300 amp breakers, and over here is a small, and of course these are all DC breakers. This is a little 15 amp DC breaker, which then feeds the 12 volt system. You know, it's basically right in front of the DC to DC converter, and it's got its own reset on it, so it can be turned on and off too if needed. But yeah, there's my 3 breaker system for the whole entire electrical system in this scooter. I can disconnect any part of it if I need to. Over here on the side, so these are the 2 watt meter sending units or sensor units, you know, the brains of the operation basically. And these 2 cables, they need to get plugged back into those. But back up underneath here is where the 2 sense coils are, and right here are the negative battery wires that run through them. And then here are my new positive battery wires. This is not powered up right now because the breakers are open, but I need to put a piece of tape over those or something. Arc and sparks are bad. But yeah, this is all new wiring for the motor controllers, so that these will reach a little bit better. They were basically just too short. There was no extra slack in the wires going down to the motor controllers, and now there's going to be a couple inches. Anyway, yeah, that's basically all the main wires coming in. You know, 6 augs. That's hopefully overkill. But hey, these controllers handle 300 amps, so I'm going to feed them as much as I can. Up on the handlebars, things haven't really changed a whole lot. This is all the stuff for the Nuclear 24 FET LCDs, or LCD, just one of them. And I'll put that back in after a while. Here's my 2 watt meters, you know, one for each one of the controllers, so I can see actual amp draw into each one of them independently, because the Nuclear app doesn't show you that. It only shows you the master controller, it doesn't show you each one. And as far as I know, there's not going to be a firmware change, even though I've asked for it, for that specifically. It's too complicated is what I was told. But yeah. Anyway, controllers are going to get mounted right here in this dark black area. And then, of course, they will connect down to the motors. And then there's a few other cables in here that are control cables, things like that, for the 2 Nuclear controllers. But all that stuff, I've got to put it in place. So back down to this pack. This is made out of LG MH1 cells, and they're rated for 3,400 milliamp hours. And so in 20S12P, that's going to be, you know, realistically, probably like, say, 34 amp hours or so of capacity. Anyway, yeah, that should, you know, It should drastically improve range all by itself. Because what I had in here before was a life pack that was 24S, was it 5P I think? And it was like 12.5 amp hours. And so now I've got like, 32, 34 amp hours. That's a huge bump in capacity, huge bump. And then between that and, back there, that used to be an LTO pack that was basically 11 amp hours, 28S1P. And now it's about 40 amp hours, 42 amp hours. Yeah, that's a huge bump in capacity between just these two packs. This pack is done, completely done. But the BMS, as you can see, all the wires are loose. This is an Ant BMS, and that's not the one I'm going to keep on here. The other two packs have Zhaojing BMSs on them, and I have a third one coming that will sit right here. And so this is just kind of temporarily taped on until I finish that all up, with a new BMS. But hey, it all works, so that's a good start, right? It balances, charges, all that stuff. But yeah, this is not the permanent BMS I'm going to leave here. That way I can have all three BMSs all using the same app. This is still better than it was. The LTO pack was on a, I don't know, Qingdong Huang something BMS. Don't know what it was. And of course I had an Ant BMS down here on the Life pack, and then I had a Zhaojing BMS up on the LiPo pack. And I have to say that 3 different BMS apps, it was okay. It was doable, but I'm not doing that anymore. I can afford to make them all the same BMS model type, so I don't have to use but one app. So that problem is going to go away here pretty quick. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty happy about these packs. Got lots and lots of capacity. The front wheel is the last thing to show off. So this wasn't so hard to do. The hub and all that stuff that came with it, that just bolted on. Had to do some minor spacing to get it centered in the forks, but that was the worst of it. But again, it's another one of those Dunlop D604 tires. I did have to machine this brake rotor because, well, it wouldn't bolt up to the bolt holes that are on the hub for that wheel. So I took another brake rotor that does bolt up to it, and basically, doing some machining on my rotary table, my drill press, I was able to mate the two together with a bolt pattern that did work. So yeah, now I've got a much larger rotor on the front, and that also meant that I had to space my brake caliper out a little bit. So I machined this little block to do just that. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, that looks pretty damn nice. And you can see it up in there. I've got a chrome fender on the thing. It sits a little high, but it's also bolted to the other side of the forks, and this gives me travel so that the suspension can compress and not impact the tire on the fender. And yeah, that looks pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with the curb appeal of those new wheels, front and back, compared to the crappy ones that were on there. They were not very pretty. And of course, that ugly ass fender that was on here before. God, that thing was just yuck. So yeah, looks a lot prettier. Lots prettier. That looks pretty sweet in my opinion. Yeah, it's coming back together again. Can't wait for this thing to be roadworthy again. Pretty close.